Hi, I'm Sally. So you're thinking about getting into mountain biking. Maybe you've been once or twice on a borrowed bike or you've never even tried it. I'm here to tell you to do it because it's going to be one of the best decisions you've ever made in your adult life. It's an amazing hobby. So you're wondering, what's required to get into mountain biking? First of all, of course, you'll need a bike. And do yourself a favor, don't buy a really old mountain bike. They're going to have different geometry that's harder to ride. It's just going to be a hassle to maintain when the parts are really old, when everything's deteriorating. Do yourself a favor, buy a new bike. They make amazing value bikes nowadays, and almost all the bikes on the market are really good compared to how they used to be. So you're going to get way better value, I think, actually, with a new bike than an older bike because people are asking too much money for those older bikes because they were more expensive at the time that they were purchased. Don't lose yourself in analysis paralysis. Have a look at what's available in your area because there's different brands available in different parts of the world. Choose one that's good value and in your price range. Pretty much anything, say over $3,000 or $4,000 Canadian, is going to be a good bike. Like, they're all good. Don't buy a Walmart bike for like $500. It's a bad idea. Now, you may be thinking, I'll just buy a nicer hardtail to get started. Everybody goes through that phase. You're probably going to go through that phase too until you realize that a full suspension bike is roughly the same cost for a better product, and there's a reason why everybody rides them nowadays. So I would suggest just skipping that stage and going straight to researching full suspension bikes that you might be interested in. If you do buy used, make sure that it wasn't stolen and be prepared to take it into the shop a lot more often, which is a huge pain in the butt. That's another reason why I really think buying a new bike is just really worth saving yourself the hassle of those extra visits to the shop and extra money spent on replacement parts and labor. This is called a trail bike or an all mountain bike. This is the kind of bike you probably want. You don't want a hardcore downhill bike. You don't want a super light, racy cross-country bike. This is the kind of bike most people are buying because you can handle all sorts of terrain on this, and they're built for fun. These kinds of bikes too are a really great way to learn and to be comfortable, even if you're older, you get a sore back maybe if you had a hardtail. These bikes are cushy and stable and built for fun. So I would recommend going with this style of bike unless you live in a certain area with very specific types of trails, or you only want to ride in a lift access park. Maybe you'll go for a different style of bike, but 90% of people who are starting out mountain biking, this is probably the type of bike you want. They do have different levels of suspension, but generally speaking, anything that's sort of in the trail or all mountain genre is going to be a great bike to learn how to mountain bike on. Something I would recommend is if you live in a wet area, like here in British Columbia, you should replace your front tire because the front tire is usually a pretty hard compound. It's not very sticky. That's usually what comes on a new bike. It's not ideal for riding in a wetter environment, especially if you're, heading into fall or winter, and especially if you're a beginner. You want maximum grip. So I would switch out the tire on the front. You can ask them to do that when you buying your new bike. You can buy a new tire, you can take home the old one, and you can eventually use it to replace your back tire. I'm going to do a video on a few little adjustments you can do right when you get your new bike to make sure that it's set up nicely for you. Just really easy things that I have managed to do myself and I know anybody can do. All you're really going to need is a little hex tool to make these minor adjustments and to do little repairs. The only feature I'd look for as a beginner is a dropper post that's relatively long. So that means that the stem here is relatively low so that when you put the seat down, you're going to be really low down, really stable. This is great when you're a beginner, give you some confidence going downhill. And the lower it goes, the better. So that's the one thing I maybe would look out for as a beginner. But other than that, the features, generally speaking, they've come a long way. They're pretty consistently good. And as a beginner, you're not gonna know what things you prefer anyways, so you may as well just go for one that's really good value. You need some safety glasses, I really recommend, or sunglasses. Protect your eyeballs, they're very important. Gloves. The gloves and safety glasses you could buy at a hardware store if you wanted to save some money. Just use work gloves and protective eyewear. Doesn't matter what kind of t-shirt you wear. A chamois and some purpose-built mountain bike shorts I do recommend. They're built for riding in. They're going to be a lot more comfortable, and they're going to have some handy features and give you some more protection if you do fall. Some knee pads and maybe elbow pads are great for beginners. Some people say, oh, I don't need those until I'm an expert. No, everybody falls, especially beginners, so it's never too early to get knee pads and elbow pads. It's going to give you a lot more confidence too, just because you won't have to worry about little scrapes. Gloves are really important for preventing scrapes, especially as a beginner. You're going to find yourself knocking into trees or falling on your hands, and gloves are really going to save you a lot of pain. Aim for socks. You can wear any socks, but wear them high, because as a beginner you're going to be scraping your shin all the time. It's going to drive you nuts if you don't have socks to protect your shins. And finally, your shoes are really, really important. Do not attempt to learn to mountain bike wearing running shoes or hiking shoes. I did that. I spent 2 years mountain biking in running shoes, and in hindsight, it was the greatest disfavor I could have done myself. Any kind of flat-soled shoes is better, even a pair of Vans or skate shoes, but do yourself a solid and buy real mountain bike shoes right from the beginning. You're going to have flat pedals on your bike, at least at first, so you just need a pair of flat-soled mountain bike shoes. Those are designed to stick right on your pedals, and it's going to make a world of difference compared to wearing running shoes or hiking shoes. So definitely invest the money in those shoes. If you don't have any pockets on your clothes that are big enough to carry your things, you might want a hip pack, and I do recommend buying a purpose-built one because they're designed to not bounce around, and that's really important. The last thing you want on a tricky feature is to have your waist pack sort of bouncing around, making you unstable. Water bottle is good, and it's preferable to a Camelback because this keeps your center of gravity lower, which is always a good thing. Plus, you don't have to sweat a whole bunch on your back when you have just this and a hip pack. So that's what I would recommend. If it's cooler weather, you'll of course need some extra layers. I have a video about that. But to get started at this time of year, spring, this is all you need. It's a bit of an upfront investment, but once you have it, it's free to come out here in the woods anytime you want. And hey, you never have to pay for the gym again. So just do it. It's going to change your life.